Okay, we'll go immediately to part two now. I don't know why it did that. Why did it stop our broadcast? So we didn't talk about anything. We just talk about historical stuff. But go about
Yeah,
the staccato rhythm of the fight.
yeah. So I think that when you talk about the heart-stopping punch or the heart stopper punch that Monk Ben did, it's really that jerking feel, the jerking kind of mindset in executing techniques that you see, and that was one of the emphasis that I had learning from Master Elmer. So when I teach my students to do a strike, for example, right off the bat, first day, strike number one, I want to hear your stick sing, right? But then there's a certain sound that I want to hear. So it's not like the whoosh sound, but you aim for that's the kind of sound that, and that's how I know that this guy's doing it right, basically.
Yeah. So it's that particular time signature, that particular type of rhythm. You know that they're doing it correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I forgot what I was gonna talk to next because we got cut off in the thing. So more on that. I guess the interface of music in your particular style and how big a
Yeah.
role music plays. So can you
Yeah.
go over that? So every time you practice, do you play music?
Oh yeah. Yeah. But Julius, I want to go back to the interface between my experience learning KI with Vico
Go ahead. Go ahead.
and
Sorry.
why it seemed pretty. It just felt natural, you know. It's because actually, and Mang Romy Macapagal has mentioned this to me several times already. Uh, the reason why, one of the reasons he thinks that Mang Ben and the late Tatang Ilustrissimo were really good friends is because to some extent their systems may look very different, but they're actually similar. In particular, he says the lightning movement of your system is similar to the Combate General of KI, the De Fondo system. So just that's the reason why it was really very natural. You know what I mean? To adapt to it. There are just certain things I didn't adapt to, like the tucking the elbows in when you strike, were a little bit more loose at the side, right?
Yeah,
And
because I noticed that with blade arts, an old secret, and I guess I'm gonna give it out away here. I don't really care at this point. Is they put a bottle underneath your
yeah,
armpit.
a bit of
So
bottle here.
yeah, so that and then so you know you're doing it right by the bottle not falling. So the only thing
Yeah.
that you're moving most of the time is this,
Mm.
or
This one.
right, yeah, because
Yeah.
if the bottle
Yeah.
falls, that means you're doing that, right? So go
Yeah.
ahead.
But Mang Ben's style was a little bit more loose,
Right,
probably because he actually had really, if you notice, he actually had very long arms, right?
and he had a
So
he had a V taper as well.
yeah,
So
so he was more loose. He wasn't that cramped.
right.
So that's one of the things that I didn't adopt. But for the most part, it actually kind of blended in. Well, I would think seamlessly. So that's the beauty. That's why I say, you just don't know what you can get from the others if you unless you explore it, you'll be missing a lot. Um, there's so much to learn, dude.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot.
There's
So
a lot. There's a
people are getting pissed off at me because like, Julius, you're giving away secrets. I'm like, we need to
well,
unite. That's what
like,
we need to
like
do in FMA.
in one of the chats, right?
We need to unite because you know what? You can learn all the
Yeah,
systems in the world. Your system's just still gonna be yours because
yeah,
of
yeah.
your body type,
Your
your
body type,
brain,
how you put it together. You're not
your
gonna
br-
get every.
your
Yeah,
brain,
exactly. How your brain
right?
works.
Yeah, your
Yeah,
brain work, and then the particular fight scenario. So like, why don't we just? I'm not saying give away everything, but why don't we be a little bit more open with each other? How about
yeah.
that?
You know,
And so I was gonna go ahead. Sorry.
you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah, when you're chatting, like, I think actually there are no secrets in FMA, dude. There's no Dimak, you know. There's no five finger death punch. It's a heavy metal reference right there. All of the secrets in FMA hide in plain sight.
Right. Even extending your limbic system by mirroring them. You get what I mean?
They're all hiding in plain sight, dude. I mean, it's there. If you have the eyes to look for it, you'll be able to see it.
You'll be able to see it. And so please talk about the interface of music with FMA, particularly your band, Blunt Force Trauma.
Well, most of us are actually rockers, so we love playing music during practice. Typically, our music it's basically Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, and then the glam rock era down to the grunge era, and heavy metal. I think the only thing that we don't play is the alternative, the early 90s or the late 90s music, early 2000s, alternative music. But basically, that's it. And a lot of the references that we use in teaching actually is referencing music, especially when it comes to rhythm. I think music is a very good tool for you to teach or teach people concepts, right, regarding rhythm. So as a group, we actually have a band. We have a few musicians. One of the best guitar players here in Davao is one of our members. His name is Steve, and he's into blues and jazz music, right? So, and when we say, he's into guys like Stevie Ray Vaughan, things like that. But he's also into rock. So, and then we have a bass player, we have a drum player. So typically when we have parties, like special celebrations, the band starts playing and we just start singing. And when we do our celebrations, we have theme celebrations like a grunge night, a glam rock night, a heavy metal night where we dress the part. And that makes it all the more fun. So
Yeah, so that's awesome. Like I noticed that with a lot of people that practice FMA, there's always an interface. If at the highest levels, there was always an interface of music.
yeah,
You notice that with GM Bobby Taboada. You notice that with Celestino Macachoro and his awesome Argentinian tango playing. You notice that with the FMA Pulse guys.
Cadena.
Oh yeah, of course, Sunny and Pud. Yeah, how can we forget?
Oh my goodness, dude! Right? You see, when you see a move, you know there's music playing in his head, right?
Yeah, I have
I've been
music
looking at
playing.
his videos and I'm like, oh, there's no way I can do his footwork, dude.
There's no way.
That's his, man.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
like me when I'm sparring, I have Slayer playing in my head, like Rain and
Oh
Blood.
yeah, I love Slayer.
And then sometimes that would change to like Miles Bitches Brew or Sketches in Spain. It just depends on like what I'm feeling. Like like certain kind of movements. I think people that are naturally musical would gravitate to FMA because drums.
It's drums.
The stick. You know
and
what I mean?
Stick, the rhythm of the stick, right?
Right, right. And if you're a Canuck, if you're a Canadian out there, I'm gonna imitate your national hero, the famous Quebecois GSP. He cannot handle my rhythm. he cannot had Matthews cannot handle my rhythm. You know what I mean? And it's true. Like that's how you beat people is you have to beat them.
And you love music where there's a strong percussion bass, right?
Yes.
Like one of the most what's this common music that we play to Sepultura because of the Brazilian rhythms that are in the background with their music. And it's like a staccato thing where you go, and it kind of adds to the general atmosphere and then feel.
I
So
wonder. I wonder if like the Distreza masters of old, if they had something like a Al Di Meola type of music playing in their head. They had to have had when they're doing the magic circle. You know, when
oh
they're
yeah,
move.
yeah, yeah. They're doing the magic and they're doing the steps.
Yeah, they must have
Yeah,
had some kind of.
they
It
must
couldn't
have
have
had
been
something.
mute because
Yeah,
look, like you are dancing to your death. You might as well have music playing instead of being mute,
music
right?
playing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm so sorry that our interview was cut into two parts. I don't know why Facebook kicked this out.
Problem.
I think it's a time. It was a time limit. I think it's a time limit
Yeah,
issue. Um,
yeah.
so we're enjoying ourselves, and I was gonna say, I think I have more questions for you, but yeah, we might need a part two for you, Manolo. I mean, what else do you want to talk about? That's very
I
enlightening.
I don't know.
Yeah, because
There's
you,
actually a lot. I mean, just just the biomechanics and
yeah,
looking at all the science stuff, and because uh, that's another thing that I think we could, as a community, right, Filipino martial arts community, we need to start looking into sports science because FMA is a physical art, and you can't do it without a certain level of athleticism, right?
yeah.
So, and the old masters, they had their methods of developing certain attributes, but they didn't have the scientific knowledge that we have today. And that's where I think the studies that are being made and the methodology that's being made by people like Nathan is really it's really valuable in that sense because our masters didn't have the same access to the sports science knowledge that we have now, dude. And we're missing a lot if we don't utilize that knowledge to our advantage, create better fighters.
I actually think, I mean, I don't want to be too critical of our generation because I love our generation, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
I think one thing that we also lacking, I think this is one is actually the biggest. It's mitigation strategies when it comes to your psyche. Because I noticed like how important that was for the masters of old. Two parts. One was they learned how to hijack someone's central nervous system, whether that was through like mirroring them and then you attack,
yeah.
or hata engaño, where you force them to commit and then you create an opening in that zero beat because you do a zero beat. Um,
Julius, I
uh,
was actually hoping, I was thinking about that earlier, and I was thinking, I wonder if Julius is going to bring this up. The
so go ahead.
psychological aspect
Yeah,
of
yeah,
playing.
yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I mean? Because I mean, Master Elmer, when he would teach, when he would talk about mirroring, that's basically psychological. You're not playing the game; you're playing the man,
yeah.
right? And then you see this footage, for example, of the late Grandmaster Tatang Ilustrisimo, where he was playing the late Master Tufa Ricketts, and he would hit Master Ricketts at will, and he was just so relaxed, and you could tell off the bat he wasn't playing the game. He was playing Master Ricketts. It was more psychological than anything, and that's the reason why he could actually hit, right? So
He di- he
these are
didn't.
things.
It didn't even look like he got off his center line.
He
That's the thing.
didn't look like he was. Yeah, he was
Yeah,
just so relaxed and well, yeah, boom,
yeah,
And
yeah.
there's a psychological aspect to it.
They
It's
were in this. They were in the same attack vector. That's what makes it so perplexing. You know.
yeah, yeah. And the differentiating factor there is I think Master Ricketts at that time was trying to respond to the strikes and not to the person. I don't know if I make sense. You know what I mean? And on the other hand, the late Master Tatang, because of his experience, he just knew how to play Master Ricketts from that level, from the psychological level.
So, so,
So
so that's the what I want you to address. I guess with my next statement, and I want you to expand on it. So I think that's half of the psychological aspect. The other thing that I noticed that some masters have, which we do not, they have good mitigation strategies when it comes to PTSD, and being
Yeah.
able to switch, turn it on and turn it off. And what I mean is, you
Yeah.
don't notice a lot of people from that generation, particularly them. Some of them beheaded people, and they don't have shell shock because they had great support for their community, but also at the same time, like they're able to keep themselves human and not completely monster.
Yeah.
And they were very good at that. They were very good at
Yeah.
dealing with that psyche where 1 second I will turn into the Incredible Hulk,
It's
and the
like
other
Jekyll and
and yeah,
it's
and the
Jekyll
other
and Hyde.
second I'm gonna be a loving father to my kids. So I want you to talk about what were they doing different that we're not doing right now. So
I think, well, I think it's the way, well, this is my opinion. I'm sure some people would probably disagree, but I think it's the way that they actually saw the art. Um, how can I explain this? Like, they were a lot more relaxed and chill about it than many people today. Uh, you know what I mean? They
yeah,
didn't take themselves seriously.
yeah. You,
You
you
know, and
we had a post about this like a few
yeah, yeah,
months ago. Yeah,
they,
yeah.
they did take themselves too seriously, in the sense that, I'm a warrior and I'm this and I'm that. In many cases, they were actually very, very relaxed. They were they that way they tended to be able to separate one persona from another,
They
right?
they they
Because
weren't they weren't they were they weren't tactic cool. They were just Barcada
it
mentality.
didn't engulf their entire persona.
Ah,
Uh, that's what I think. That's why they could actually shift from one state, or persona to another, because one persona didn't totally engulf them. It didn't dictate their identities. So, and that's also one of the reasons why if you know, well, this is something that I noticed. If you talk to the old guys before, not just the guys I studied with, there were also some of the old guys whom, we've talked to, who had experiences during World War II. They hesitate to talk about their quote unquote exploits, and when they do say talk about it, they don't. It's almost as if they're just dismissive. They don't want to go into the details
yeah,
because they don't want
it's
to get.
always just generalities and not
It's
like
always
yeah,
just generalities. Exactly. It's
and
always just generalities.
not like oh it was this time, it was particular latitude and longitude coordinates that I fought this unit, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
They,
yeah, yeah.
they
And then I cut off his head, and then I did this and did that. It's not like that, and it's
yeah
not like they don't speak about it as if, in a way of, in a bragging way, so that people will think they're tough or they're whatever. It's just, that's just a fact of life. It was just something that we had to do because the times called for it, but it wasn't something that we would look for or we would wish we had to experience again. We would experience again. So, like my cousin, his dad's side is actually from Samar, and they relocated to, what's this, to Maitum. This is in this is, along the east coast, or no, west coast of Mindanao, going towards Cotabato. So after Maitum, you have the town of Libak, and then that's the entrance to the Cotabato area. But this town is actually, it's mostly Waray, right?
mhm.
So, his grandfather settled there, and they have a coconut plantation, and they had a farmhand there who was, at that time in the 90s, he was like in his 70s or going towards his 80s. So when he saw my cousin practicing, and the farmhand he was just, somebody you wouldn't think of, interesting enough to talk to, but, when he saw my cousin practicing Arnis, he goes to my cousin and says, "Oh, you're like the old people. You look, para ka palang para kang yung matatandang tao because you still practice it." It's almost like saying you still practice the old arts, right? because he was practicing arnis. And then he goes, I also know a little bit of that, right? And so he tells my cousin to get a bolo. He didn't want to do it with a stick. He wanted to do it with the bolo. And then he just shows a disarm. And then he talked about his experience during the Second World War. So this is something that my cousin didn't know about this guy because he never talked about, never bragged about. And this is an interesting story. I don't know if you've heard stories like this before, but he said, this was the Second World War, right? They were fighting against the Japanese. He said what they would do is they would change down to like a lampin, like a diaper kind of thing, or very short shorts, right?
Yeah.
And then they would either dip themselves in vats of oil or they would rub grease all over their bodies. That way they'd be dark. They couldn't be seen at night, right? And then they would start going towards the Japanese barracks, right, where the Japanese are staying. They'd have two guys turn off the lights. And then they'd rush into the sleeping quarters of the Japs to kill them. So it was dark. How they know? They would be groping around in the dark. Whenever they grope cloth, they go, ah! And then if they grope bear skin with oil, they know that guy was part of their team. And you wouldn't think that this guy did something like that in Second World War. He was just so chill. But that was his story.
So this is
pretty interesting.
Yeah. Did you have any more stories?
Oh, that's the only story that he was willing to tell.
So basically, so I was gonna ask you because your ancestry hails from Samar.
My cousin, you remember Master the late Edgar Solita's book, Masters of Eskrima Kalinarnis. So my cousin studied nursing in Ozamis, so he started visiting all of he actually studied under Helacrio Sulite, Jun Sulite, and then he tried studying under Grandmaster Olavides. But Grandmaster Olavides took one look at him and said, "You're already studying under Jun Solite. I'm not going to take you." And then he also met Master Kabahug, Publicito Kabahug. He's also in that book. You know that story of Edgar where he got attacked by, was it 30 bandits? And then he defended himself with a sword. That was true, dude. But from Master Kabahug wouldn't say it was up to 30. He says, I don't know, but there were a lot of them. So probably somewhere between 10 to 12 or 10 to 15, stuff like that. But the way he would say it, my cousin says Master Kabahug had PTSD. He was like, the way he would say it, he's like, I didn't know what was happening. Somebody would come in, I'd just slash. I wouldn't know if that guy died or whatever. And then I'd just run. And then there'd be somebody, I'd just slash. And then just keep running. And then as far as he's concerned, he says, I thought that was the last day of my life. And ever since, he wouldn't go anywhere without his sword. So, talking about that, that mindset, like a lot of the tactical stuff now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really
we laugh at that in the Philippines when we see like, oh, why is this mofo wearing plate 3 body armor and we're out in the city? We're just like giggling on the side. We just don't tell them tactical. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Because it's actually here we giggle, right? Because I don't know. We were discussing this. I don't know. I think it has to do with why people get into the martial arts in Western countries in the first place. Because here in the Philippines, at least for my group, everybody's pretty cool, man. It's just about the barkada and about the booze that comes after the practice, or the booze that comes with the practice. Right? I mean, there's nothing like. I'll tell you a story about the old man. Yeah. All right. So we were here in Davao, right? We were on the beach. So when we go to Talikod Island, you know Talikod Island, right? Babu Santa, Isareta.
I heard.
Yeah.
I heard. We were
Yeah.
talking about it the other day. We were talking
Yeah,
about
we
it.
were talking about the other day. So we went there, we brought him there and got on the boat, things like that. So, and that island, usually when we go there, we order tuba. You know what tuba
Oh,
is? The
yes,
coconut
yes.
wine.
The coconut
That's
wine.
the coconut vinegar wine that you have, right? So we ordered tuba, the bahal tuba, the one that's been, what's this? Sifted
Plant
for several.
planted several years. Oh my
That
god.
was good. It's sweet and it has a little bit of bite.
Gumugu hit.
Yeah, gumuguhit, but it's sweet. It's almost like malt beer. It's got this very full flavor in your mouth, right? So we start practicing, and then the old man goes, "Boy, wag muna kayo mag-practice. Antayin niyo yung tuba. Gaganda yung palo niyo." He said, "Don't practice first. Wait for the booze. Your strikes are gonna be better."
Better. Yeah, yeah. And believe it or not, maybe I'm getting too many secrets away. People are gonna get pissed off. The style I practice in Laguna, we don't practice
Yeah.
until we're slightly buzzed.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so because they explained to me, the old people explained to me was like the most likely time that you will get in a lethal force scenario is either when you're sleepy or you came out of the beer house or you're not
Yes.
into it because you're not feeling great. So if you
Yes.
train in that constant type of flow mentality and you're really relaxed during that, you'll do fine. And so
Yeah.
what really scared me the most for me is like we were doing obviously slow, but we were and not feeding. Like we're doing a non-cooperative movement, right?
Yeah.
With a live blade. Like I never understood like why are we doing this when we're slightly drunk? And then it's just like no, it makes sense so that when it happens you're not going to be afraid of an actual blade.
Yeah.
And I was just like, aren't you afraid that one of us is going to accidentally stab each other and have to clean a colostomy bag for the rest of our lives? And they're like, no, it's never happened. Trust me. He said just don't get too drunk. But he's like, but yeah, we should do it this way. Trust me. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know. So when it came time for me to actually use it in a situation like that, oddly enough, it never happened in the Philippines. It happened to me here in the U.S. I didn't
In the
freeze.
US.
I didn't freeze. So sorry I
Actually,
interrupted you.
you're the only guy I heard who's mentioned that what's this? How do they call it? That reason for drinking while training before, because that's a constant joke that we have because we have observers and they're coming from the karate background where everything's so stiff, everything's so formal, everything's so this and that. Can't do this, can't do that, right? And then they see us practice and we're drinking booze while we're practicing and things like that. And we have music, you got cigarettes, things like that, right? And then our excuse for drinking while practicing was basically that. Like, when's the time you're gonna get into fight, right? When you're slightly drunk, you're in some bar with people you don't know, or also drunk, right? And you might as well learn to fight well in a state of in an intoxicated state.
So it was Mang Ben who told you that or Elmer Ibanez?
Yeah, it was Mang Ben.
It was Mang
Mang
Ben.
Ben.
So
Yeah.
he knows that's the old way. That's the old way. That's the old way.
And sometimes that was how they practiced, dude.
That's how they
I don't
practice
think
back in the day.
all the serious stuff. It's just like, you have a barbecue going, you got the beer there at the side, you're smoking your stuff, you're beside the beach, you're having fun, and you're banging sticks or blades or whatever. I think it's about the barcada. It's about the solidity of the group. It's about family, and I think that's probably one of the differences that I would say it's the major difference between us here in the Philippines and people there in the West. Because
So I'm just gonna give you a heads up, Manolo. We are pushing in excess of almost 2 hours here because it was 70 something minutes this time, and now we're doing like 30 minutes. So you might need
hours, dude.
no way. And so I was gonna say concerning that is If anyone here has any questions, it might be good to ask now. And I don't want to keep on poaching you, but I think should do a part two because I know that next month you're still gonna do one with Vico, and
With Vico.
you're gonna go over into more detail of what we talked about
Yeah.
today. So please, if you have any questions, can you send them now? Because we're in excess of 90 minutes now with Manolo, so it would be really helpful. Oh, just do part two. God, you guys are greedy, man. Look at these greedy people. They try to spoil you. We're doing like 8 interviews like every month now. We're booked all the way until May. What? These people are crazy. I'm gonna try to have some of my indigenous friends and like my moral contacts talk to us. But do you
Yeah.
have any contacts there in Mindanao of like moral people?
Right. Is in Tawi-Tawi now.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'll see if I can get a Silat guy from there or a Kunta guy from there.
Please,
I think
please.
that's great.
Cause,
He's actually Muslim, so he's one of the MK instructors. So he's now in Tawi-Tawi because that's where they're originally from that archipelago. So I'll try to see if I can get him to have uh, a real Silat guy
yeah,
from the islands,
and
the Kuntawi.
we're actually being very reasonable, Manolo, because I thought we are going to be even more ridiculous than this. But this was a pretty chill interview. I didn't want to lose our belly from laughter, but there is a question that popped up in
Yeah.
my personal message phone.
Yeah.
It did ask because part of your heritage comes from Samar Leyte.
Hmm.
Do you have a red ring?
A red ring.
Pulahan.
I'm Pulaan.
Yeah, because you know how
Oh,
some families still carry the red ring. You know what I mean?
yes. Yes.
So do you
You
have
know,
one?
I don't have one. It's not in my family heritage. Although I come from my family comes from Iloilo, actually from Haro. My mother's side, my father's side. And here's the interesting thing: from my father's side, we hail from Luzon, from Metro Manila, and my great grandfather was the editor in chief of La Independencia. He was a
Damn,
contemporary of He was a
Rizal.
contemporary of Jose Rizal and Antonio Luna and these guys.
Oh, actually, we were supposed to talk about that, and maybe we should save that for part two, because you're part of a Katipunan family, bro, and we have to talk
Yeah.
about these inducted secret stuff. But we can't tell about our but go ahead.
The Katipunan
Yeah,
secrets. Yeah.
yeah, we can't talk about that.
That would be interesting.
But we do have to talk about secret societies. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And kind of the interface of that. That's what we missed because it's in my
Mm.
questions, and I can't believe I missed it. So no pulahan, but the
No.
La Independencia stuff. So
Yeah. And
that's why
we really touch on the Pulahan stuff that you wanted to talk about.
huh?
It's
What?
been 2 years.
Yeah, we're almost 2 hours. Let's make a
Oh, no,
part two for this.
I
Let's
mean,
make a
I have a
part
lot
two.
of stories that you probably find interesting. I'm not sure. I mean, from my part, being growing up in Davao, these things seem to be just part of the normal environment. And then now I'm realizing it's not something. It's not normal. It's not something people, even from the Visayas or from the Luzon, would find as part of your regular. But here, I mean, Vico knows this. The stories about the Ilaga, those
Oh,
groups.
so
Right?
what does it stand for? What does Ilaga stand for?
But I don't know what it really stands for, dude. I really don't know why they call themselves the Ilaga. Yeah,
Hmm.
but the joke is, or and it's the guys who call themselves that are the Ilonggo guys who actually live in Midsayap. I have students who are from Midsayap. They say, "Oh, Ilaga, Ilonggo Land Grabbers Association." You're making fun of themselves.
I was gonna say, kaya ka pala malambing kasi Ilonggo Tagalog ka. Kaya ano
Oh,
ka, malambing ka. That's the reason why. It's like the dude's already insulting you, but they say it in like a romantic type of way where
in
you're like,
embarrassing sounding way
yeah.
of saying it.
It's like, is that guy even mad at me? Or is he singing at me?
Oh, dude, I love listening to the Ilonggo language, dude.
Yeah.
I, you know,
But
chicks who speak in Ilonggo are hot.
Are you married to one? Are you married to one?
No, my wife is Davawenya, and she's part of the Mandaya tribe.
Oh,
Yeah,
lucky you. So yeah, I think
she was Miss Davao 1997.
that's how you know that's how you knew she was the one, right?
Yeah.
I will. We have to continue.
I was like, I'm gonna marry this person. I'm gonna marry her. But
I will.
but that's just between you and me. Between us and our friends, I tell them the first time she saw me, she said she was gonna marry me.
You knew each other was the
Oh, yeah.
one kind
We
of.
knew, we
Yeah.
knew.
So people, I will have to we have to continue this because we're stretching out already, and I need to go to work. It's a 6:19 here. I need to take a shower and do all these things. 'Cause you have to understand the time difference. I have to wake up at like 3:30 in the morning or 4 o'clock to
Yeah,
do this interview with Manolo, and I know over there what is midnight already? Is it close to midnight?
it's
Yeah.
10:20,
Huh?
ten
What time?
twenty,
10:20.
ten
And
twenty
you still
in the
have
evening.
work. You still have work tomorrow, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so let's be considerate of Manolo because he needs to sleep and he works 6 days a week, 5 days a week. And I have to go to my thing, and so we'll have to continue this to part two because there's a lot of stuff that we missed,
Let's
and
talk about
maybe
the Pulaan next time, dude. I mean, you'd be interested with the stories.
yeah, I
They're
want to
pretty
talk.
interesting.
Yeah, so talk about the
Yeah,
Polan, and maybe we can't talk about our particular involvement, but maybe we could talk about secret societies and the Katipunan families, maybe.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, just not give away like what you and I are. You know what I mean? Yeah.
yeah.
Because you're all not in the club, so you're not privy. So take care, Manolo.
Okay.
Oh man, this is
Have a
awesome.
nice day, Julius. It
You
was
too.
great talking to you.